Well, I had the Schill for only 13 days as a rental, and those 13 days have expired. The Schill is no longer in my port, but before it left, I took it out a little bit more extensively to try to decide if it's a good ship that's worth converting all the resources for. Now, of course, I think a lot of people watching this video probably will not have the resources to acquire this thing. But if you do, the crafting station is still available for 5 more days, so you could theoretically still get the shill. I used some of my resources in the crafting station, mostly to get the 3 insignias. There are other reasons to craft. I had like 2,300 promotion orders or something, and there's no way I could possibly use all of those, so I traded a lot of those along with some credits and GXP to get some insignias, which helped me bump another commander or two up to rank 16. So I got out of it with at least some value, but of course, this is the top prize. And if you've got enough resources to throw away and get this ship, should you do it? Will you actually be able to perform well with it? Will it be fun? I think the answer to both of those questions is yes. The Shill is more or less an upgraded version of the Tier 5 German heavy cruiser or pocket battleship, you might say, the Graf Spee. This is more or less a Graf Spee hull with more armor, same 6 283mm guns, Scharnhorst caliber on this cruiser, and it basically performs the same way the Graf Spee does, except better. I think the guns are a little bit more accurate than the Graf Spee, and of course, you have the better armor scheme, and you have the main battery reload booster. This thing is pretty good at brawling cruisers, which is mostly what we're going to see in this battle. I suppose you could also brawl some battleships. We'll get into a close quarters engagement with one and be able to come out on top, but we do have support behind us in the form of a friendly battleship who you can see hanging out to the north of the Alpha Cap, and he's going to help us a little bit once we have to deal with the resistance out there who's slowly creeping in. But for now, it's just the Peter Bag Ration on this side of the map that can shoot at us. He's switched to his HE and he's lit us on fire, which is not ideal. We don't want to just sit here taking this HE spam because, of course, it can penetrate our armor scheme. We don't have a ton of health. We've got more than most cruisers at the tier, but not a ton. And we'll just get melted if we continue to be hit too much. We switch to the HE ourselves and get a decent hit on the bag ration too. Lights a fire, but it's still burning. I thought he had extinguished it, but I guess not. Perfect 10, which I think is just a clone of a Plymouth, is coming out exposing broadside, so of course we are not allowed to hit his citadel. Suppose I could have used the reload booster here, but I feel like if we're going to deploy this thing, it probably ought to be when both of our guns are on target. And of course, when both of the guns are on target, the Perfect 10 smokes up, so not much we can do. But we are going to activate the trademark German sonar and get vision of both the bag ration and the resistance, which is coming around this island. I think this kind of island play, by the way, is a good choice for the Schill. You can use these islands as free armor and a staging point to sort of conduct an ambush. We do, after all, have another German calling card, which is torpedoes on either side of the ship, and I believe these torpedoes have an 8-kilometer range, which comes in handy against the Perfect 10 over there. We land 2 torpedo hits on him, and it looks like he's got a flooding, but he's used DCP on it. Too bad, I was hoping it would last for longer. Anyway, Perfect 10 is out of the way. We are spotted, though, by the bag ration's sonar, so I don't know if we want to hang around here too much. It's a little bit of a risk to come around this island, but the only battleship we're facing is HMS Resistance, and from what I remember, that ship is not necessarily the best. I think it's only got 6 guns, and I'm not too terribly worried about it. He misses his first salvo there. He's flat broadside to us and to our friendly battleship, so you would think he's probably going to go down quite quickly. But of course, we're not going to be able to stay in this gap here. We're spotted, And potentially that Kansas and the Perfect 10 both have shots on us. So we're going to have to continue retreating and put the island nearest our spawn between us and the Kansas slash Perfect 10 or whatever else is out there, taking away our HP. We're down to about half health now, but we can heal a little bit above that with the repair party. Soon we should be able to protect ourselves from all that firepower. I do believe that is the Perfect 10, and he'll whittle us down nicely if he's allowed to. In any case, we escape the onslaught of his fire. We say hello to Brutus, who's walking into the room, and now we wait until the resistance is spotted again. In the meantime, we've managed to single-handedly secure the Charlie Cap, which is the only cap our team currently holds. The resistance gets spotted after firing his guns. He's flat broadside to us and 11 kilometers away, so it is nice to see about 9,000 damage from that salvo, and now is the perfect time to deploy the main battery reload booster. The second salvo is not so great, and of course the resistance goes dark, which means this is more or less a blind shot. The results are in, and, well, better than the second salvo. The guns are about to reload again once more. We remain unspotted, but the Charlie Cap is turning red, and that makes me think either the Peter bag ration is in it, or whatever provided that smoke screen for the resistance might be. I assume that was an enemy destroyer. The smoke screen has faded, though, and so the resistance is permanently spotted now. He has not in any way attempted to angle, which is a bit of a surprise that he's still floating, because he's been flat broadside to this friendly battleship behind me the entire time. And I don't know if that guy's dispersion has just been bad. Certainly he hasn't been shooting at anything aside from the resistance. So we'll chalk this up to favorable RNG for this guy, but he's well on his way back to port. He's now decided to kite and angle away. We're seeing how much effect the AP can have on his angled armor. I think we're only going to pen his superstructure, but we can for decent damage, and our teammate nearly takes him out. One more salvo from the main battery guns ought to do it, but I think maybe when the ships are that angled, we ought to use the HE. In any case, that's when Perfect 10 decides to make his ambush. We get torpedoes in the water very quickly because it looks like this guy is going to continue sailing flat broadside, probably trying to launch torpedoes of his own. We'll change direction, of course, and the torpedoes we sent his way are going to be enough to take him out since our guns couldn't quite get there. That's our second kill of the game, 77,000 damage done. And you can sort of see the trump card of the Schill in action in brawls versus enemy cruisers. Although it obviously helps when you are pointed away from the enemy cruiser so that it's easier to dodge the torpedoes. I suppose we could have taken the shot at the Benson there, who is retreating and shooting at us. But the broadside of the Peter bag ration was simply too good to give up. And he continues to remain broadside. It's only now that these guys decide to push out, which I don't really understand it. The enemy team has all three of the capture circles. They were ahead of us, well ahead of us on points and kills before I managed to sink the Perfect 10 and the Resistance as well. And now we're even on kills, but the enemy team does have an advantage in the form of a destroyer. They really didn't need to aggressively push, as they did. Doing so is basically going to throw the game for their team. It's going to give us the opportunity we need to turn the tide, as they say, and come back. Bag Ration, I guess, has realized his error. He's now trying to correct it by kiting away, but he's still presenting too much of an angle to us, and we're able to shave off a good deal of his hit points, taking our damage total up over 100,000 damage done. And it looks like Bag Ration is the prime candidate for the third kill in this match. We switch to the HE, hoping to guarantee the kill, but this is, of course, German HE. That means it's got great penetration. It can penetrate the armor schemes of more battleships than other cruisers at this tier certainly can, but the alpha strike on the HE shells is very low, which is why we only get 1,000 damage against the Bag Ration and leave him for the friendly Nebraska to take out. We get back into the cap, which again was the only cap the blue team had throughout the entirety of this match. Our hard work was undone, though, by the Benson and the Bag Ration, so we're going to try to reacquire the cap. and pursue the Benson, who was last spotted going through this gap and is probably hanging around the Bravo cap somewhere. I assume he's trying to push into our spawn and maybe get some torpedoes on the friendly battleships there. There's 3 friendly battleships left. They're all on this side of the map, and we've got the Benson and 2 enemy battleships to fight. So at this point, this is still an uphill task for us to win this game. The enemy team is ahead on points, and they have all 3 of the capture circles until about 10 seconds from now when we secure the Charlie cap for the second time in this game. We're hanging out to do that now. We'll kick on the full speed as we get the cap ribbon, and then we will continue our pursuit of the Benson. Luckily, the 2 battleships are exactly in the same place on the map. They're both pushing north past the Alpha Cap, and that means it's impossible for them to catch us in any kind of crossfire since they occupy the exact same position. They're going to go at our teammates in a head-to-head duel. One of them is a Nagato, the other is a Duke of York. The Nagato is well on his way back to port, and the Duke of York is basically at full health, but that probably won't last. Benson was trying to go out and get torpedoes on our battleship teammates, but he's having to retreat, which takes him into line of sight of us. We shoot AP at him. The results are not exactly the best, and this is sort of where you see one of the weaknesses, or I suppose downsides of the Schill. Sure, it's got this German sonar, which is good for warning you about torpedoes and catching destroyers at close range to keep them permanently spotted, but you don't necessarily have the tools to take out the destroyers quickly. We've shot at this guy a number of times now with our main battery. We've even used the main battery reload booster, despite the fact we can only get 50% of our firepower on target, and I don't think we hit the Benson more than once with the main batteries. The secondaries, as you could see, are not super accurate, so they're not much help either, and the Benson does get away. At least for the moment. Looks like he's pushing straight toward the friendly battleships, 2 of whom are pushing in toward the Duke of York. They've sunk the Nagato. They're able to spot the Benson, and hopefully they're able to take him out, but we're right here to finish the job if necessary. 1 salvo is out at the Duke of York, and the results are almost nothing. Does look like our teammates are shooting at the Benson. Our secondaries certainly are, but I don't think they're going to finish the job, so we're going to have to do that with the main battery guns. And this time, 1 salvo with the AP is enough to secure our 3rd kill of the match on the Benson, which just leaves the Duke of York left. And this game, which could have easily been a loss for the blue team, is turned around, thanks in large part to the Schill and its ability to brawl with enemy cruisers. Now, of course, not every match you're going to get is going to be full of cruisers like this, and you probably need to play pretty conservatively with the Schill early on in order to avoid sinking. It does have a good armor scheme that can offer it some protection from enemy battleships, but it is still a cruiser, and so you have to be careful. But if you can manage to hang on to enough HP early on in the game, and then have it for the end of the game, you can be a little bit more aggressive. And if we were in some sort of position to push into this Duke of York, we certainly would, and I think we would have quite a bit of success in doing so. Of course, we've switched to the HE because this guy is angled. I think that's probably necessary in this ship as well, to be switching to the HE against angled targets. Certainly the AP against broadsides, especially cruisers, is what you want to be using, but against angled targets like the Duke of York, well, you probably want more guaranteed damage, and being German, this HE does have good pen. It also lights fires. We've only got actually 1 in this game, so maybe this is not the best fire starter. In any case, this match is an example of the Schill at probably its best. The damage done total is not exactly impressive, let's say, but because of the 3 solo cap ribbons and the damage we did against a number of cruisers, we do get nearly 3,500 base XP, which I think is an impressive number, especially since there are no planes in this match. Anyway, the Schill is decent. If you can afford it, you'll probably have at least some fun with the ship. It's a bit situational, but there's not too much like it other than the Graf Spee. So if you've got nothing else to do with all your resources, it is certainly worth it. But if you're like me and you don't have enough to afford it, Well, maybe someday it'll come back to the game, and if you don't acquire it, it's not the end of the world. I'm a little bit sad that I don't have the thing, but now that it's gone, I don't think I'm going to miss it too much. I had fun with it while it lasted, and if you're able to acquire it, you'll probably have some fun with it too. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.